and Jana Snider. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome, ladies.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yes. So we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, it's hot, right? Let's start with the heat. The heat that we've had, and there's a lot of illnesses, but you don't really realize maybe you've had a heat illness until you're passed out, right?
Sometimes, yeah. So I can start with heat exhaustion.
Yeah.
So heat exhaustion is more common. It's like a precursor to something we talk about. We call it heat stroke.
Okay.
But starting with heat exhaustion, it's a lot more common. You will feel lethargic. You might have a headache. You might feel nauseous or start vomiting.
Okay.
So this is not technically a medical emergency.
Okay.
If your symptoms don't get better, or you, if you still have symptoms for after maybe an hour or so, you're going to want to seek medical attention. You're going to want to move into shade or some air conditioning and get some cold cloths over your body. Heat stroke is when your body temperature keeps climbing. Now, this is a medical emergency because your body can't control its own temperature. So we often see people stop sweating. You might get red, hot, dry skin. We see a change in mental status, so you might feel confused or disoriented, so you're definitely going to want to call 911.
Immediately.
And
call
again,
911.
move into AC, get some cool cloths over your body to try to keep your body temperature from climbing even higher.
So the precursor with that exhaustion,
Yeah.
if you start to see those symptoms, should you keep just working in the garden?
No. Move into shade and air conditioning, and like I said, get those cold cloths over your body. Maybe try to get into a cool bath if you can.
How about with our younger and senior population? What are some things we should watch out for? If we're spending time with our loved ones who are older outside.
Absolutely. So maybe if they're sweating a lot, if they start to slow down, maybe you'll notice they're not drinking a lot. So again, hydration is very important during these hot temperatures. If they start making comments like, "Oh, I don't feel so good," you can generally tell with, they're gonna start looking lethargic. They might complain of a headache. So just watch for those symptoms.
Yeah, it's important to keep in mind those early signs and symptoms too, because you want to, stop it before things progress.
Yeah.
And it's especially important with children and the elderly.
sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because kids won't stop.
Well, they won't
If
tell
they're
you.
having
No.
fun, they're just going to
No.
keep going. So it's important that we know
And
what
really,
signs to look for.
adults need to drink more water too.
Yeah.
Because it's about, I drink water.
Do you think consuming mass amounts of Diet Coke
No.
is a good idea?
Oh, you
Best
answered that very
hydrator.
quickly. Well, I also drink, there's water in Diet Coke. Also, I do drink water on top of Diet Coke. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and older adults don't necessarily have the same thirst cues as younger people. So, yeah, it's important to keep in mind hydration, especially for older adults.
My grandma Holly, she only ate peanuts and drank Diet Coke, and that's it. She lived into her 90s. So,
On peanuts and Diet Coke.
yeah, but she didn't really have to deal with too much heat exhaustion down there, so I
Yeah.
think it was good. Well, let's talk ticks because everyone has them and everyone's afraid of them. I just had an experience. I was telling you guys, we took our dogs up north, had to stop at a rest stop, let the dog out. Well, obviously those areas haven't been sprayed for ticks, and they're everywhere. So you got to watch out for them on your pets. But what happens if they get on you as a person?
Yeah, it's important to know that the tick populations are migrating, and so we've certainly seen like an increase in ticks in Michigan and Jackson, and
Look at those little boogers.
I know
there.
they're terrible. So this kind of shows the different species of ticks that we have in Michigan, and each tick is associated with its own disease risks. But what we see in Michigan and Jackson is primarily Lyme disease, which is on the rise. And you'll see the the black-legged tick, or the deer tick there up on top, is the tick species that carries Lyme disease. So if you have the unfortunate circumstance where you find one of these on yourself or a child or a dog, I've got some Jackson County Health Department tick removal kit.
Thank you.
And what's really nice about
We'll be
these,
using this today.
I know.
Such a good idea.
It's got everything you need to remove, clean the skin. You can put a Band-Aid over top. It's got information on how to remove the tick if you happen to forget. But you really want to get close to the skin, right where that head and face is. You're going to lightly lift up. You don't want to yank it or anything. But if you use gentle pressure, pulling, it will eventually let go. And they do have to be attached for a decent period of time to transmit diseases, and that's like across the board for all ticks. So early intervention is the most important.
Yeah. It's amazing how hard they can be to get off the skin.
Yeah, and there's a lot
Easy.
of bad suggestions on the internet on
Really?
how to remove them, like putting petroleum on them or using a hot match. You don't want to do any of that.
Don't do any of that.
Yeah, just try and grab it as close to the skin as possible and remove it.
All right.
Well, we've talked ticks. What about a bat?
Yes, bats and rabies are not as high of a
Yeah.
risk as ticks are, but it's still important because rabies has extremely poor prognosis if anyone or a pet were to be diagnosed.
Oh.
So if you have a bat in your home, especially if you're unsure whether it was in contact with you perhaps while you were sleeping, you want
Isn't
to
that the craziest thing? Like they can bite you and you're unsure of that.
yeah, and usually there's no mark or anything on your skin, so yeah.
There's not two giant fangs. No.
No, they're so small. I know. But yeah,
I'm
if
starting
you
to think I was bit by one.
my God. Well, if that does happen, you can go through with the rabies vaccine series, which is a
Okay.
series of 4 shots. But hopefully and ideally, you'd be able to catch the animal if it's in your house. Use leather gloves or something and try and contain it in a, even if it's like a Tupperware or whatever you've got at home. And give us a call at the health department. We'll have it sent up to the state lab to be tested. And as long as there's no risk for rabies, then you don't need to be vaccinated or anything in that
Could you
scenario.
imagine
Oh
getting
my
bit by a
gosh.
bat and then I'll put my leather gloves on and then I'll go. We
would-
once in a
I
while
would- I
get
would
bats
just
in the
die
building.
from the
Of course.
experience.
Once in a while get bats in the building and it's usually a full team effort. Tennis racket, shoe boxes. Sometimes
Tennis
we
rackets
call
the go-to,
Yeah.
it seems like.
helmets, the whole thing. Everyone puts glasses on.
We have a bat net.
Really?
It's like shallow. It's like, I don't know. We've had it forever. But so if I have a bat in my house,
Yeah.
I don't think I've been bit. What should I do?
What's important is to just acknowledge that if you were asleep, or maybe you have a child who's not able to vouch for a potential exposure, or animals in the house, like especially if you're sleeping with your door open and you don't know where it's been in the house for the whole evening while you're asleep, it's a best practice to just test it, just because you don't know. And
Yeah.
with rabies, you don't ever want to take that risk of assuming that nothing happened.
Jana, I am never going to sleep again. Never.
You-
Well, hey, we have got resources.
That's
to,
right.
you
That's
know,
right. You're
keep
good to
you
go.
Resting easy.
Are these available at the health department?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yep.
So just anybody, if they want to have one of these, this is a great thing for a mom or dad to just have on them, especially if you're out walking and enjoying the
Absolutely.
outdoors.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And ticks really like the brush and like off the beaten path. So especially if you're spending time in brushy areas, that's when you want to
Yeah.
take time to check your skin for ticks.
I've
certainly.
noticed the mosquitoes are out lately the last few days.
Yeah.
There was kind of, I felt like a later start to mosquito season, but they're out.
Yeah,
Oh,
with
it's
all this rain and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Using DEET and EPA approved, bug repellents, that's going to deter mosquitoes and ticks. So that's
Oh.
a nice thing. Yeah, wearing DEET if you're out in the woods also will keep the ticks away.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. How long have you been with the health department, Heather?
1 month.
1 month, and they send you right over here to talk to us.
You're such an
Unbelievable.
expert. You're
Impressive.
doing a great job.
Thank you.
And Jana, how long have you been?
Just about a year and a half.
Awesome.
Yep.
Oh, well, thank you guys for being with us today. And if anyone has any questions, certainly you can call the health department.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank
so much
you.
for having us.
Thank you
Thank you.
guys. Heather Czarnecki and Janet Snider with our Jackson County Health Department. More of the show right after this quick break.